as a fan, I always hear about the it factor. This person has the it factor. This man has an it factor. This woman has the it factor. But what I want to ask you is, what does that mean? What exactly is the it factor, and how important that it factor is? So, Tommy, let me ask you, because you have done a lot behind the scenes when talking to, recruiting, hearing from pro wrestlers that they want to be a part of this business. For you, what does it mean when you hear or see the it factor?
The it factor means, why am I going to hire them? For me, for other people, it could be like, why do are they the it factor that they're going to be the main event of WrestleMania? But for me, the it factor is, why am I going to put my name on you? Why am I going to recommend you? From indies is one thing, but then we'll talk, ECW specific, where I started this role. And it went to, for example, very own Bully Ray. Bully Ray, I wrestled on an indie show. I'm now in ECW. He shows up, and I remember on our indie show, he took a backdrop, he drop kicked, he took a superplex, and he was a very large individual, and we needed somebody to take a choke slam. And I said, that guy has the it factor for exactly what we need, and that was to take a choke slam. That was it. And when I say that was it, that was the it factor. He's fit that role. Now, as we move forward in ECW, when I'm taking more of a lead, creatively, running shows, all that stuff, we were like the first company to kind of have like open tryouts. And how I look at it when I do seminars, it's, you go, and this isn't an outdated topic because I went yesterday, you go to a bookstore, or if you go to whatever, Barnes and Noble, you walk in and there's a bunch of magazines, there's a bunch of books, it's a bookstore. I'm looking at all these wrestlers when I'm doing a seminar, if I'm doing a show, and what has that it factor of, A, I'm going to employ you for the night, B, I'm going to give that it factor with you of, I'm going to be interested enough to sign you, or if I use this as a relationship, am I going to talk to you? Am I going to hook up with you? Or am I going to marry you? When you walk into the bookstore, there's still hundreds of magazines. What's going to make me walk past the first magazine and pick it up? Something has to catch my eye. That's the appearance. That's your general, what are you looking at? The same as if you're in a bar or a place. If you're in a bar, there could be 1,000 people. What's going to make me turn my head and be like, I want to talk to that person because I want to get to know them, to date them, to do whatever. And then I also always say, judging a book by its cover, which is the different part of the it factor. When I tell people like, hey, wearing a t-shirt in 2024 as part of your gear, it's a harder chance for you to make it. This will always be, yes, a cosmetic business. It's that first look to see, am I interested? Then, if you don't have that it factor right away, because then you could always say, well, that person could learn how to work out. That person can diet. That person could put on muscle. That person could do a whole lot of other things to improve their appearance. Then it's also on the other end of it. They could have the greatest body in the world, and you're judging it like, wow, I want that person to represent me. And then they get in the ring and they're absolute horrible. That's that's the opposite of judging a book by its cover, because the cover looks great, and then you read the book and you're like, oh, this is crap. So if I could use for instances, ECW, again, the first place to have open tryouts, and we're in the Carolinas, and there's this girl with a tattoo and red hair, and she's different looking because during the time, all the women there Well, I'm saying that were represented in WWE really had, I think there was 3 or 4. What is it? Sunny, Sable, Terry all had blonde hair. And then I'm looking and I'm like, that girl looks different. And then that girl did a moonsault. And I said, that girl has it. That girl turned out to be Lita. And it was just for tonight. You know why? Because in that time, girls weren't doing moonsaults. And I was like, that girl, let's see what she has. And then she gets on the show. Then she's working for the company. Then she leaves and she moves on to WWE. Jazz was another one. For, man, that girl looks different. Man, she's jacked. And then I'm immediately looked at her, and then her work, I was like, holy crap. Where did this girl come from? What a find. WWE, when now I'm actually, and I mean the same went for men in the industry for ECW as well, but then we also had like our own school. So that it factor turned to, well, here's our people that we have to, they're investing in us, so we're going to try to make them the best and place them on the field. WWE, when that was part of my actual job, hiring men and women to pursue their dreams, it was, to me, the it factor. You can do anything put in front of you. You can do it. If it's, like I said, most of hires were hired out of their aesthetic look, but then here's a microphone, cut a promo. Some were great, some were not. Then it's, what can you do in the ring? And then that kept on proving whether you're going to stay in developmental, whether you're going to move up, or whether they're going to cut bait on you. Because these are all the things that get you that it factor for how you're going to grow once you're in the company. When you are, Bully Ray says it the best, and he'll talk about it, but when Vince McMahon says, hey, Bully, I want you to work with this guy named Roman Reigns because he's going to carry the torch. And then you look at him like, yeah, that guy's got it. Early John Cena, I'm in the ring with all these guys. I like to still to this day test out to see if they're good in the ring, besides what you could point out from anybody's work. But where are they with their timing? Where are they with, charisma, all these different things. But early on in their careers, I mean, I wrestled Brock, Batista, John Cena. Well, he's good with this. He needs to work with this. He needs to look like that. And if I could use it, we're just talking pro wrestling. But then it's the real world. It's the real world of sports and the entertainment. The entertainment part of it is, well, who's going to fit this role that I need to play this part on our movie or my TV show? With real sports, with every, any draft, football, how fast you run, how jump you high, and then your performance on the field. Your performance on the field tells people, wow, this person has it because they're doing this in college. Now they have to go to the pros. And then what do they go for? They go for the combine. If they jump high and they run fast, if you run faster than everybody, you move ahead of the line and you make more money. These are all real things. What does everybody always say about Tom Brady? Well, when you first looked at him, he didn't look like anything.
Yeah.
But then he became Tom Brady. What do they say about Mike Piazza? He was the last picked. He was the picked because his dad played baseball with Tommy Lasorda. Then his skill set and everything that he did got him to become a high-priced person, as well as then a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, future. So, and the other way, Tommy, too, because since you're on baseball, I guess the most notable one would be, in baseball you hear 5-tool player.
Yep.
And then you got the story of Billy Beane. The Mets scouts saw him, said he had all 5 tools, drafted him number 1, and he turned out to be a bust. So does that happen as well in pro wrestling, where you look at somebody, you're like, this guy has or she has the it factor, and then just completely becomes a flop?
You can look at when the business crashed between WWE, WCW, ECW. You had all these people who were stars in other federations. Now they're going to the WWE. if you looked at people and how long they were there, and I'm not saying that they were busts, but WWE then didn't believe in it because why? It's different management. That's the difference with professional wrestling. Who do they see as the it factor? And then it's like, okay, then you're going to get over on your skill set. Because if you looked at a lot of the WCW guys, they didn't have as long of a tenure when they went to WWE. There's a whole bunch that did, but they were superior talents. Then if you're looking at the aesthetics, a lot of the aesthetic guys from WCW, they didn't last as longer as some other people, because then also WWE like, well, we already have these big jacked up dudes. What do we need them for? Because our guys are better than their guys. Now it's a whole other game. And by that game is what they're doing in the developmental system. And they're taking these great collegiate athletes and taking a shot at them and say, yeah, we'll invest 2 to 3 years in them. We will train them from the ground up in our system to see if they get over, succeed, fail. And they really do have about a 3-year system. Same with, you said about draft picks. There are so many great draft picks. There's also so many draft picks that were busts. Then we just had the Pro Football Hall of Fame. When you see where some of these guys were drafted, you'd be like, wow, I didn't know that. Or you listen to these people's stories, and then it goes to like, how many years did they play, but it was their impact on the game. But then there's a difference between Hall of Famers and men and women that played the game. Then there's also people who had a cup of coffee. And then there's other people like, who've had a great career where then you also say they're on the cusp of Hall of Fames. Mm-hmm. So, in real sports, that you have statistics that help back that up. With pro wrestling, there's so many different factors. And I will use myself as an example. Why was Tommy Dreamer a top guy one place and not a top guy in another place? Different eyes on said person. And it's what that person thought. And I didn't change. My boss did. And that's between a lot of people.
Beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
As well as then if I look at myself in a mirror and I'd be like, yeah, well, I'm not a jacked up guy, even though I was in the best shape of my time then. But I was like, yep, I wrestle in a T-shirt. And I also walk out and they chant for another company that doesn't exist. How does that help me?
Knowing a little bit more detail about your situation, I think you had the opportunity to be somebody, but because of the way you came to WWE, you were lumped in with everybody that they just incurred out of bankruptcy court. Thus, you were given your position because you were wanted by the WWE much earlier on. It was you who decided to stick it out till the end.
EC Dub.
All right, Bully, it factor.
I just want to go back to what Tommy you had said about here today, gone tomorrow. You could be on top of the world with the it factor, and then it's gone. First name that popped into my mind, Fandango. Talk about a guy that I always thought had the it factor. Tons of charisma. Beats Jericho at WrestleMania, the next day he's dead in the water. Did you guys think that Fandango had the it factor? Yes, maybe the beauty was in my eyes.
But here's the thing that's interesting to me, Bully. When I look at Fandango, to me it's almost like there was nothing that Fandango did. Like what made him one day be the it guy and then the next day not be?
I don't know the ins and outs of that story.
Yeah, because he beats Jericho at WrestleMania. I mean, everybody was doing the Fandango sing-along and the fingers in the air, and then 2 weeks later, they just completely pulled the plug on Fandango.
Tommy, I don't need specifics, but was there something specific backstage, or did they just wait? Did Vince roll over one morning and go, fuck him?
I think there was some backstage stuff, but then you look at him now, and he is doing some amazing work. Like, Next Level changed what he was perceived as, because also you're put in a gimmick that don't know where you can go after that. Just because everyone's dancing and pointing doesn't mean that could stay forever. I feel if the version he's currently doing in TNA, because he's getting insane reactions as a heel, it's really, really, he's totally transformed everything about him, both personally and professionally.
And I guess
well-
really quick, sometimes it could be circumstance, and I'll just use somebody that we talk about on this show all the time, Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre debuts on SmackDown. He's the chosen one. They put him in a program with Matt Hardy where every single week Drew McIntyre is beating Matt Hardy, and it kind of backfired because then everybody got behind Matt Hardy and they were cheering for Matt Hardy, and then it seemed like they kind of pulled back on pushing Drew McIntyre moving forward, and then he was in a horrible gimmick, and then the next thing you know, he's being let go by the WWE.
When Vince McMahon comes out there and he debuts you, it might seem good on the surface, but basically what Vince is saying is, this is the kid I want to push, and this is the kid you're going to like and accept, and then people are like, no, thank you. That's kind of what happened, in my eyes, what happened there. Listen, here's the thing. When it comes to an it factor, you can't teach it. You cannot teach the it factor. You either have it or you don't. And I don't even know what the it factor is. I just know how I feel when I know somebody has the it factor. I'll compare it to something. I like girls. I love women. Always have, always will. I don't have a type. I love short girls. I love tall girls. I love blondes. I love brunettes. I love redheads. And everything in between. I like girls with freckles and without freckles. I like girls with big butts. I like big butts, and I cannot lie. And I like girls with small butts. I just like women. I don't know what girl I'm going to like until some girl strikes something in me, until I feel that it factor. That it factor might be her looks. That it factor might be her personality. And let me tell you something. I am one of those guys where if the most beautiful girl in the world has the worst personality, take care, brush your hair, don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out, sister. Because personality is so much part of that it factor. Same thing goes with wrestlers. I'm never looking for the next one. It's just got to hit me. And I actually teach my students, Dave, I try to put it into a physical manifestation of what you want promoters and bookers and fans to do. Imagine if you're a wrestler and Vince McMahon is walking past you. Vince McMahon is going to look at you, and then he's going to look away and keep walking. What you want Vince McMahon to do, and I'm using Vince as back in the day, obviously it's Hunter or Tony Khan right now, whoever or Tommy with TNA. What you want them to do is walk past you and look at you, and then look away, and then look back at you again. Because if they look for a second time, you had enough of an it factor to turn their head back. And that's when you know you got them on the hook. Same thing if you're looking at a girl from across the bar. You lock eyes with her. You look away, she looks away. But when you look back, if she's looking at you, she's on the hook. And vice versa. Because you look back also. That's the double take. That's looking again. That's the it factor in some way, shape, or form. Human beings are giant magnets. We're constantly looking for that other magnet to be attracted to. We're balls of energy. We don't even know the type of energy that we make of inside of us. I don't want to go, I'm going off on a tangent here, but the it factor, you just kind of know. You see somebody and you go, wow, yeah, that person right there.
Dave,
like when you look at a Brock Lesnar. I mean, come on. When you like I said, you can't teach it, but what you can do is once you find somebody with an it factor, you can hone it and you can shape it and you can mold it, which is what wrestling does. These are what great bookers do. They're able to notice the it factor and then create something out of it.
So I have a question.
Can I just jump in right before?
Hey, Tom, please.
I'll never forget. We're driving. We pull up to the building. Shane Douglas walks out. His hair is slicked back. He's got the blonde ponytail. He's wearing a leather cap, sunglasses. He's in great shape. He's wearing his franchise shirt, black sweatpants, yellow sneakers, which back then yellow sneakers weren't like a thing. And he had a gold chain. And we pulled up, and Paul goes, "Wow, look at my world champion. That's what a champion's supposed to look like." And I was just like, well, he beat, like, Sandman was your champion. But what I'm saying right then and there, that's an envisionment of Paul Heyman talking about, that's my guy. That's the guy that I have representing my company at that time, because he looks that part for what the guy who had all the power in that company to represent it. And then, yes, Shane could do it in the ring, which is key, but it was just a very profound statement of him, like, because he created that. Paul Heyman created that. It's not like Shane went in there and won the title, and Paul was proud to see that representation of his vision. And then here's another thing that, like, when WWE came out first with the dress code, man, it was a big, big thing, because I would sit in the airport, and when everybody had all these suits, and there would be guys who would, like, be great bodies covered up in these suits, and then would walk along a Batista. And Batista, like, he would wear the collared shirt, and you would look and you'd be like, oh my God, that guy is something. And he would be sitting next to another pro wrestler, and you'd be like, what is that guy? Or my other favorite, Jeff Hardy. Jeff would walk through an airport, and everyone would be like, that's a rock star. That's a pro wrestler. He just had this look, and then his aura about him, he was just different. And we'd all be getting on the same plane, but people would point out those two as opposed to everybody else who looked like, a regular person in a suit, even though they're 6'4", 6'5". So why did they have that it factor and the others didn't, when it's a whole full plane full of people?
Dave, do you remember a wrestler, a valet, a lady in the business named Dawn Marie?
Yes.
Do you think Dawn Marie had success in ECW?
Yes, she had success in ECW, sure.
Do you think she had success in the WWE?
She had success in the WWE.
She was involved in a lot of storylines. Tori Wilson, Tori's dad. She was involved in a lot of stuff. I saw a black and white picture of her in a magazine. A black and white. She was working an indie show as a valet. And just the pose she had at ringside, I saw that picture and I went, wow, that girl has something. And I remember when Paul and Tommy needed to bring somebody into ECW to face Tammy Sitch. And I was like, guys, I saw this picture of this girl. Like, I think she can play the part. I was told I was out of my mind and I was crazy. I'm like, no, I think she'll work for you. No, Paul told me, no. And I'm like, Paul, I'm telling you, look at this picture. I think she can play what you need. He's like, all right, fine. You call her. You tell her what she's got to do. You sell her on everything, and let's see what she's got. Boom, she came in night one, knocked it out of the park with Tammy. What I'm saying is, I didn't know the girl. I didn't meet the girl. I didn't know nothing about the girl. But something about that picture screamed it factor. Don't know what it is. It kind of talks to you. It kind of makes you feel a certain way. And when I say feel a certain way, I actually feel the rush of emotion go through me. I've spent so many years in front of a crowd that I'm in tune with that rush. Whether it's a small rush or a huge rush, that somebody moved me. They made me feel emotion. That's why wrestling to me is it's emotion, period. I don't care what you do out there. If you can move me emotionally, you've done something. I don't need it to be a crazy ass move. You could wink at me and make me feel something more than an acai moonsault off the top rope to the floor with a cherry twist.
If
Dave, I see you smirking like crazy though. What do you
No, because the reason why I am, because I understand exactly what you're saying. There's no definitive answer to this. Like, here you are talking about Dawn Marie with the it factor, and Tommy talking about Batista with the it factor. And when you look at both of those performers, they couldn't be more completely different than one another, but they both have that it factor in common. It's not something that you can explain. Like, Tommy, you're right. Like, in other sports, there's intangibles that you can describe. Like, it's statistics. It's a certain swing of the bat or a throw of the football. But when it comes to pro wrestling, it could be any of those factors.
But if you really whittle it down, it factor comes down to commanding people's attention.
Yep.
Whether that's through movement, talking, sound, no matter how you can make me pay attention or move me emotionally, then you have an it factor or the it factor.
When I'm hiring people in developmental, right? CM Punk, saw his stuff in Ring of Honor, saw his stuff in TNA, and I'm like, there's something about this guy. I didn't really know him. I had worked with him just once, and then once now I'm hiring him and he's in my developmental system, I'm like looking around and I'm like, yeah, there's something different about him. And he had that it factor. My most recent where I got it, and I say this all the time, Orange Cassidy. I didn't understand or anything about Orange Cassidy when he's explaining himself to me. And then I turn around live in the ring, and now I'm like, now I know why people like him. Now I get it. And he goes on to have this amazing career in AEW because people are in on it. And if you don't get it, fine. But if you do, you're going to stand out.